All right, my name is Andrew Kulha with Packers Roundtable, and again, our guest, but quickly becoming a featured guy in the Packers world, Anthony Moeglin. How you doing, man?
Andrew, doing great, dude. Week 2, almost in the books. As we're recording this, we got one
Yep.
more game left to go here in week 2. A lot of action starting on Thursday night with the Packers game and going all the way through here to a late night Monday night football game. Now, this is a topic of conversation on my Twitter feed today. Do you like the double Monday nights, the Monday night doubleheader, or are you more of a hey, I want one?
So, growing up, I always thought that Monday night was the marquee, right? With John Madden and I remember being a kid in the '90s, hearing that music come on, and to me, that was a special game, and I think it needs to just be one game. And I can see why ESPN does it, tries to get the most out of it, but there was something cool about having that being the feature game. Now it's Thursday night, but Thursday night kind of sucks. So.
Yeah. I would take 3 Monday night games. You can go triple header. Let's go 4 o'clock Eastern, 7, 10. How about that?
Wow. I guess the more football, the better, right?
More football, the better. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, we have an interesting week, you and me, because we're going to be looking ahead to a week 3 matchup between my Packers and your Browns.
That's right.
And it kind of seems like a little bit of an unfair matchup, but we can get into that.
2 teams on 2 totally different trajectories, and we'll dive a little bit more into it later in the show. And I'm excited to talk about it because, from my perspective, it's a very lopsided matchup. I'll leave it at that for now. We'll get into it in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. What I want to do, though, since the last time we talked, the Packers had a Thursday night game. You mentioned it was the kickoff to this week 2 action. So they took on the Washington Commanders. We knew it was going to be a pretty good game. What I don't think either of us expected was for the Packers to come out the way they did and just really put a hurting on the Commanders. 27-18 win by the Packers. It was another home win. Right now they look possibly like the best team in the NFL.
You'd be hard-pressed to find an argument any different, right?
Yeah.
Like they look the part. The defense looks really good. Jordan Love looks really good. Like, they have all the pieces, man, that you could ever want, and to try to make a run at it.
Absolutely. So the thing that I'd love to hear from you, and just to refresh our watchers and listeners, you used to play college quarterback at a very prestigious and big time football.
Oh, that's very nice of you to say. Very nice of you to say. Not prestigious, not big time, but a good school. Played at John Carroll University. It's a Division III school. For any Wisconsin listeners, Wisconsin Whitewater, Wisconsin Oshkosh, those would be the teams that we played against. Mountain Union would be a name that you resonated with. And if you want to learn a little bit more about me, look up 2016 John Carroll versus Wisconsin Whitewater. That was a good day for you. That was a good day for your boy. There wasn't many good days. That day was a good one. But now, talking pro quarterbacks, talking Jordan Love. Wow, Jordan Love and Jaden Daniels. I was really excited going into this one because I think Jordan Love, he's one of those guys that you just love, no pun intended, but you love watching him play the position. He's accurate as heck. He makes quick decisions. He's super athletic. He's all the things that you could want in your guy, in your quarterback. And then Jaden Daniels, the up-and-comer, right? He's a guy that plays the position a little bit differently, had his amazing rookie season, but then is trying to find his way in year 2 to prevent this sophomore slump. And the matchup was good, and obviously Jordan Love got the better of Jaden Daniels. And frankly, a sign of things to come, but Jaden Daniels looked totally confused, outmatched, unsure of what he was looking at and seeing in that Packers defense.
Yeah, and really probably for the first time in his NFL career, I mean, he had a tremendous rookie season, and he looked like he just fit in. I mean, that playoff game when he went into Detroit and led them to the Commanders to a victory, that was something that a veteran quarterback would struggle to do. And, let's just be very clear. These 2 quarterbacks are at very different parts of their NFL careers. They're in different developmental paths. Even just looking at the beginning of their careers, Love kind of took that Aaron Rodgers route of taking a couple years to develop, and the Commanders just threw Daniels right into the fire and said, go and learn from it. right now, clearly Jordan Love, he's the better quarterback of the two. When you watch that game, what stood out to you between those two quarterbacks? Do you see similarities, differences in their game?
Actually, more differences than similarities. I think that Jordan Love's done such a good job, and this comes with that veteran. This comes with that that time that he spent behind Aaron Rodgers. You can see him just being super comfortable in the pocket, really sitting back there, making sure he likes what he sees and delivering the ball accurately. I thought I was impressed early on in the game. Their ability, and this is a Matt LaFleur staple, is he's going to take shots, and he's going to give a shot or two. When I say shot, an over 20-yard pass, something deep down the field, he's going to give you 1 or 2 per quarter, and that's to keep the defense on its toes, but also let your offense know that you believe in them, right? Let your receivers know that you're willing to take a deep shot. Let your quarterback know that, hey, go let this thing rip tonight, and you're going to make big plays. And I thought that they lived in that personality on Thursday night. And it really showed early on. They were taking some big time plays, and they were able to build that lead up to make it a comfortable start to the game, which I liked.
If I remember correctly, we probably talked a little bit about Tucker Kraft in our first episode. He talked about big chunk plays. He caught 6 passes for 124 yards. He averaged 20.7 yards per catch, which is out of a tight end. That's exactly what you're looking for. Last time we spoke, you mentioned kind of the importance of having a tight end who can be a safety net for you. Love ended up finishing with 19 of 31 yards, 19 of 31 passing, 292 yards, 2 touchdowns. One of those was to Kraft. The other was to Romeo Doubs. Another game in which Love spread the ball around quite a bit. He ended up going to not as many as the first week, but he still hit Tucker Kraft, Ontavian Wicks, Malik Heath, Luke Musgrave, Romeo Doubs. Chris Brooks, even backup running back, got involved. And when the backup running back is getting 3 receptions, that means your offense is humming, doesn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And when you're getting, you got, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 guys get receptions, 7 guys have targets. Matthew Golden didn't have a reception, but he had a couple targets.
Yep.
That tells me that your offense is just, like you said, it's humming. Your quarterback's seeing it very well. Your play caller's in a really, really good rhythm because he's getting the ball, spreading it across the field to all different guys. And that tells me that the offense is in really good shape and gets you really excited. Now, back to the tight end conversation. Tucker Kraft, 6 for 124 and 1. That is, you get a night like that out of your tight end, you just love that. That's icing on the cake because the tight end is the security blanket most of the time. But when a tight end can pop off like that, makes it really challenging for a defense to try to defend everybody on the field, and it makes it better, makes it easier for your skill guys at wide receiver, and it makes it better for your quarterback thrown to a big guy, especially one like Tucker Kraft.
Absolutely. If he has a couple more games like that, people around the league are going to be starting to put him in the same conversations with the Kittles and those guys.
Yeah, it's no doubt about it. Yeah, you start getting your name mentioned with Kittle and Kelsey and Laporta and those types of guys. You're doing all the right things.
Absolutely. So let's go from the Packers offense to the Packers defense. Holy crap, this unit, if you really think about it, they gave up a touchdown in garbage time to Detroit in week 1. They really only gave up 1 touchdown that mattered against the Commanders. That was in the second half. It kind of brought the score within 7 points, but then Packers pulled away. So really, you're looking at 1 touchdown that mattered and a couple field goals over 2 weeks from this Packers defense. What have you been seeing out of these guys?
Just an elite get after the quarterback, and it's not just Micah Parsons, right? Micah Parsons is doing a lot, but the whole defensive line is really challenging opposing offensive lines. They're putting pressure on the quarterback. And now they've done it in 2 different ways, right? In week 1, you do it against Jared Goff, who's that statuesque type of Jared Goff. He's that statuesque type of quarterback where he's going to sit back there. He's going to have a spot, and you're going to be able to get to it. Then against Jaden Daniels, you have to have a totally different approach because he can move. He's athletic. You have to be very disciplined in your rush lanes, not to give up huge avenues for him to escape to. And I thought that was one of the better things they did on Thursday night is they didn't keep him contained. They did keep him contained.
Yep.
And when you do that, not only does that keep him off the ground, he had 7 carries for 17 yards, but a guy like him, when he starts to scramble, he's so good at scrambling with his eyes downfield, looking to try to make a play down the field to his receivers. And when you can keep him contained in the pocket, that's an uncomfortable spot for him. And they did that over and over and over again on Thursday.
You mentioned Micah Parsons. Again, he had a huge impact on the game. He, the stats, they're coming along. This is still a guy who's not even fully 100% integrated into this defense. He's not even really in football shape just yet. He finished with 2 tackles, a half sack, a couple quarterback hits. Last time we talked, and I imagine as long as we talk about Micah Parsons and the Packers, this is going to be a conversation about how when you have a pass rusher on the other side of the line from you, it just kind of speeds up your clock as a quarterback. Being that, Jaden Daniels is a young guy, do you think that just kind of that compounded being a young player and then having a guy like Micah Parsons across from him?
There's no doubt. And when things don't get off to a good start, those defenders start to really hunt, right? They can kind of taste the blood in the water, or smell the blood in the water, and they start turning it up a little bit. And that's what happens. You see that, and then the quarterback starts shrinking. He gets those blinders. When you're looking at a horse and they got the blinders on, quarterbacks get those when things stop going well. And what's really bad, when you're not seeing the coverage right, you're not seeing the secondary good, that makes you get a little bit more in tune about what's going on to your right or to your left. And that's when things get kind of scary, because that's when the defensive line starts really hunting.
And the Packers have a defensive coordinator and a gentleman named Jeff Hafley. He was the former Boston College head coach, and he decided to leave a head coaching gig to come coach the Packers as a coordinator. And all indications coming out of his first year and 2 games are that this guy can disguise him, right up there with the guys that we think about normally as elite defense coordinators.
Yeah, and he looked really good. And we could do a whole podcast on why college coaches would leave college to go to the pros.
Sure.
Totally different. We could do a whole deal on that, because it's 2 different worlds. But you can do that when you have a really good back end and a really good secondary. And that's when you can start getting super creative in the box and really taking risks. And again, that goes to you get it. You probably come into the game with a set game plan, and then the game starts to take on a personality. Well, Thursday night took on a personality of Jaden Daniels isn't seeing it well. He's not comfortable, and we could really get after him. So then you can start turning the heat up. You start turning the heat up, and it makes it really challenging on that opposing quarterback. And Thursday night was the epitome of that. The Packers defense started well, and then they started turning that thing up and made life hell for Jaden and the Commanders offense.
And I think it's worth noting, too, this was the second week in a row where Green Bay's rushing defense was just stifling. I mean, the Commanders have, especially with Daniels being a quarterback who can run, they have a pretty good rushing offense. And in week 1, the Packers shut down a very, very good rushing offense. And what the Lions have, we saw what they did against the Bears in week 2. And then, they shut down a Washington rushing attack that only won for 51 yards. What I love about what we're doing here is good quarterback conversation, right? So here's my question for you. As we talk about young quarterbacks and when the game slows down versus when it speeds up for them, how do you think about it from Daniel's perspective? He knows his rushing offense is not going to help him much. The Packers are flying around on defense. How do you get out of that zone in your mind? Other than, the cliches you hear, just get a couple easy passes, throw something out to the flat, something to the tight end. Is that really the only way you can get back in a rhythm?
Yeah, I mean, it's either that or just wait till the clock hits 0 and move on to next week, because sometimes it gets to a point where it's really bad and it's really tough. And you can see that, especially for a young guy and a guy that had faced some adversity last year, but has been playing amazing football in his last, let's call it 10 games. Been playing really good. And you get into a spell where it's not going your way. And you think back to the Philly game last year in the NFC Championship, and it didn't go their way for sure. But it's pretty much gone his way for the majority of, at least recently. And it starts going the other direction, and it's hard to snap out of it. Excuse me, It truly is. And you are right. The cliche stuff does work when, you start getting easy completions and whatnot. But when you can't run the football, it makes it really hard. And sometimes there is no snapping out of it. And you saw the fruits of that, last week.
That's got to be a really depressing feeling, just looking at the clock and saying you've still got half of football left, and you don't know how the heck you're going to move on.
Dude, it goes back to Andrew. It goes back to that one super viral clip of Sam Darnold when he was in New York, talking about how he's seeing ghosts. And like everyone freaked out, like, oh my God. But like that's a true thing. Like when you're not seeing it well and you're not understanding the coverages and they kind of got you, the defensive coordinators kind of got you, you start making things up in your head where it's like, ooh, I think that guy's going to break, or I think this guy's going to cover or blitz or whatnot. And you start trying to guess. And when you start guessing, you're not reacting, and you're certainly not being proactive against what you're seeing. And that makes it that's a bad recipe for a quarterback, and makes for really long nights.
Yeah, it sounds like not a good place to be. So the Packers, as you can imagine,
10 out of 10 do not recommend.
Yeah, do not recommend. Well, as you can, we can guarantee that that's going to be the mode that Jeff Hafley is going to try to get his defense into every week. Oh. And what I think that's a beautiful transition into.
You have to.
Yeah. So my headline, I guess you could say, for this topic is what is going on with the Browns at quarterback. So at one time Cleveland had 4 or 5 quarterbacks on the roster. They drafted 2 quarterbacks. Joe Flacco. I don't know where to start. So why don't you just walk me through what the past couple months have been like watching this unfold?
Yeah. WTF is going on a quarterback. So, okay, I'll take the time now. I won't do this every week, but it's Browns week. It's Browns-Packers week. So we're going to flip it over to our Browns hat. So what is going on with the Browns quarterback room? What is going on with the Browns quarterback room is a long story. Again, this could be a whole nother podcast, maybe even a week-long series. But before the draft, they go out and trade for Kenny Pickett. They trade a 5th-round pick to the Philadelphia Eagles to get Pickett. They bring Pickett in, and truthfully, Pickett was the guy that they wanted, right? And Cleveland's certainly in a rebuilding year. They wanted to get Pickett in here, a veteran guy, see if he could win some football games, keep the team competitive. And then out of the blue, they go and Joe Flacco shows a little bit of interest as a free agent. And they're like, hey, if there's mutual interest here, let's bring Flacco in as the insurance policy. Okay. So It was Pickett, it was Flacco. And then in the draft, they really love Dillon Gabriel. And we'll get into this. Dillon Gabriel, if he was 3 inches taller, he'd have been a 1st-round pick and he'd be playing right now. But he is in the tallest guy. I can say that because I'm not the tallest guy. So not the tallest guy, but he can spin it, and he processes really well. He's got a super live arm, and he's very accurate. So they go get Dillon in the 3rd round, and that was their guy they wanted. And then Shedeur just drops and drops and drops and drops, and then they're back up in the 5th round, and they're like, hey, we're at pick 144. This is a lottery ticket. Like, we could take him, and if he's anything what he maybe could be, if he reaches his potential at all, you have a very inexpensive quarterback there. And now you have 2 of them where, as the years go on, you have a very inexpensive starter and backup between Gabriel and Sanders. And then the story about Deshaun Watson comes back into play as he is trying to rehab from 2 Achilles tears. So there's that. And then where you get to quarterback number 6, quarterback number 6 is the 2nd week of preseason. Pickett hurts his hamstring, Gabriel hurts his shoulder, and it's just Joe Flacco and Shedeur Sanders in the room available. So they go out and sign P.J. Walker to come in and play a preseason game. So it's been a whole deal. And then with Pickett's injury to his hamstring, it ended up costing him an entire month, of preseason. So he got 0 reps in training camp, and they ultimately at the end of camp went, hey, we're going to go with Flacco, keep both rookies available, and they're going to let Kenny Pickett go. They end up trading him to Las Vegas to go to play for the Raiders. So in a nutshell, in 3 minutes, that is the quarterback saga. An endless, or a story that will just totally never leave me. It will never leave Cleveland who's going to be the quarterback. The musical chairs right now this season are it's very crowded, if you will, in that room.
If you think about it, what an ideological difference between what the Browns have done here and what the Packers have done over the years. Mm-hmm. I can list 3 quarterbacks that really have been the key touch points for the Packers: Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and now Jordan Love. And in 3 minutes, you just talked about 6 players.
6 in 2025.
In one season, and of course, we've all seen that meme with the guy's jersey, and he just lists all the quarterbacks' names. So what's the deal with Joe Flacco? I mean, the guy's been around for a while.
Yes. The deal with Joe Flacco, and I apologize for cutting you off. It's hardly a meme. That's a real jersey. I've seen it in person. I've touched it. That's a real jersey. That thing's crazy. Okay. I think there's like 40 names on it. I was trying to quickly look up what year Brett Favre started in Green Bay to see who the Browns quarterback was, but I'm fairly confident that they didn't even have a team. And I think they had just moved to Baltimore when
it was 93. 93 for
Okay, so they moved to Baltimore in 95. So 93 was before the franchise moved. You've had 3 quarterbacks since then. I believe the number's up around 30 for the Browns. So anyway, I digress. What's going on with Joe Flacco? Just father time's undefeated, man. Like it was exciting for the Browns fan base, because if you go back 2 years, Joe Flacco saved the season in 2023. It was going off the rails. They signed him in the middle of the year. He literally was on his couch and he was thrown in his backyard to stay ready for the season with his brother. He tells a great story about it, and the Browns call him up and he's like, "Screw it, I'll go take a workout." And his arm was live, and then he rips off 5 straight wins for the Browns, or lose the first game against the Rams, and then they rip off 5 straight to make the playoffs. And he set all kinds of records, threw for over 300 yards every single game, all sorts of things that he did. And he goes off to Indianapolis, comes back, and it was kind of like, all right, we're going to roll with him. Wasn't our first choice, but we're going to roll with him because it'll get the fan base excited. Probably should have won week 1. Not probably. Absolutely should have won week 1. Definitely played better than the Bengals, but missed 2 kicks to cause the loss. And then just got totally exposed against the Ravens. And the Ravens defense, I believe, is on the same level as what the Packers bring to the table. And if they're, Jeff Hafley and the guys on that side are watching that tape, they're like, oh yeah, we're about to feast against this guy, because it's Jared Goff times 100, because he just simply cannot move. And more so than that, the Browns receiving core is abysmal at best, and it makes him just a sitting duck in the backfield, waiting to be hit pretty hard.
So Flacco checks in at 6'6", 245 pounds. He's been in the league since 2008. 2008. This is a guy who wasn't mobile when he was in his prime. And, interestingly enough, back if I remember correctly, back in the day with the Ravens, there was always the conversation of, is he an elite quarterback or is he not? And of course, he went on to win a Super Bowl, so good for him. Is there any chance that he's going to get anything done against the Packers? Right now, his touchdown to interception ratio is 2-3, and like you said, he's going to be a sitting duck out there.
Yeah, he's going to be a sitting duck. So let's talk about those interceptions, because 2 of them were – and I'll die on this hill, Andrew. This is one thing you'll learn about me throughout the season. Receivers should have interceptions as a stat, because if the ball bounces off your hands and then it's picked off and it's not the quarterback's fault, do not put it on us. But he had 2 of those in week 1.
Spoken like a true quarterback.
Hey, does it sound like I've had a couple of those in my day, Andrew? Yeah. We don't. Receivers need to have interceptions. All right, I'll get off my high horse. He had 2 of those in week 1 against Cincinnati, where legitimately hit dudes in the hands, split the numbers. They carry them up in the air, and they're intercepted. Nothing you can do there. Last week, he had one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen. He was kind of like rolling out to his right, escaping pressure, which we just talked about. He can't quite move all that well. He's escaping pressure to his right, and then kind of tries to throw it back across his body. Really dumb, triple cover, picked off, and returned into the red zone. Very, very bad. But the touchdowns he has on the year, the first one to Cedric Tillman was a good throw off after a good drive, well schemed, well drawn up in the red area. The second one was last week against the Ravens. It was to Cedric Tillman again, so Tillman's got 2, but it went through the hands of Marlon Humphrey, who's the cornerback for the Ravens, popped right up into Tillman's hands. He caught it, and it was like an accident. It was on I think it was 4th down or 3rd down maybe. It was just a total accident, and it just happened to be in his palms, and he caught it for a touchdown. So he is not playing well. He's not seeing it well. He's not making good decisions, which all of those things, when you look at an 18-year vet and a 40-year-old, you'd say that, hey, if anything at all, he's not going to be the most athletic, but he's going to make right decisions. And he's not doing that right now for the Browns, and that leads me to believe that the Packers cannot wait for Sunday because they have an opportunity to just feast on the Browns offense.
They're going to be salivating. There is one guy I want to talk about, especially because I think you probably have a unique insight into this gentleman. That's Quinshon Judkins, the running back.
Yeah.
Who came from Ohio State. So against the Ravens, he had 10 carries for 61 yards, 6.1 yards per carry. Also got involved in the passing game a little bit. I really like this guy at Ohio State, and I'd imagine he's probably one of the few players that you think right now could be a potential chip for the future.
Absolutely. So that's we talked about all things bad about the Browns, right? Your quarterback's old. We'll get into 2 more bad things. Their offensive line sucks, and it's just really bad right now. And it's a bunch of old guys who just used to be great and kind of have aged out. So it's really frustrating to watch. And the receiving core does struggle a little bit. Now, the positives with this Browns team is their rookies are fantastic. Okay, there's a bunch of them. We'll start with Quinshon Judkins, and he's so unique, Andrew, because believe it or not, I've never heard this at all, but he had 61 yards on 10 carries last week. He's practiced one time in the NFL outside of OTAs. He missed all of training camp. He got into some legal trouble, which ended up being dropped after the draft. Now, this is a guy who perfect, squeaky clean resume at Ole Miss and Ohio State, comes out of the draft, gets into a domestic dispute with a friend, not his girlfriend, but a friend. And there was a legal thing that went on. They ended up dropping all the charges against him. And then this was at the end of July. And then it took over a month for him to get, or it took almost 2 months for him to get signed. Okay. So it was a very weird deal. Okay. He practiced for the first time, got contact for the first time on Saturday's practice before the Sunday game, which is insane stuff, just crazy stuff. Goes out and gets 10 carries for 61 yards. 54 of those were after contact, and he runs hard. He's hard to tackle, and he's just like a fist. When you see him running, he's just a ball of muscle, and he just runs right through you. He loves contact, so he's really interesting. The other one, Dylan Sampson, he also plays running back. He was It was SEC Player of the Year last year for Tennessee. He had 22 touchdowns for the Volunteers, and he's more your scat back. So they got a little power with Judkins, and they got a little speed with Sampson. They'll use them both. They're going to use Sampson more in the pass game, but they have both of them. And then the guy to absolutely have your eye on is Harold Fannin. He wears number 44. He plays tight end. He's the tight end from Bowling Green, and he was whatever the tight end award is. I think it's the Mackey Award, but something's telling me that's receiver. I don't know. Best tight end in the country in college last year, and really showing to be kind of a Swiss Army knife. The Browns use him in a ton of different ways, and he will have catches. He will certainly have targets on Sunday. So there's a couple of those rookies that you want to keep an eye on on the offensive side of the ball.
And you can almost see what the Browns are trying to do right now. Just try to collect as much talent as you can at the quarterback position. You know, they're just basically, like you said, taking lottery picks and hoping one of those guys work out. There's a guy that I want to end with who's been around Cleveland for some time, and that'd be Myles Garrett. You know, it looked like he was going to be leaving earlier this offseason. They ended up signing him to a big deal. In this, football is all about matchups, right? And I think we all love to tune in to see, a top wide receiver against a top corner or a top quarterback, knowing that there's a top pass rusher on the other side of the ball. In this game, what we have is two of the elite pass rushers. And, they're not going to go up against each other, but we have the opportunity really every time we tune into a defensive series to see potentially something great happen. So, Micah Parsons versus Myles Garrett is going to be the matchup for me in this game, just to see which one of these guys is going to put their stamp on it. So tell me about Garrett now that he's re-signed. How are things looking with him?
Yeah, it's actually a really cool story, and one that if you go back, I won't continue to just ramble on. But he requested trade before the Super Bowl last year, and then he goes on Media Row and just like trashes Cleveland. He's like, this team sucks, like all these things. And then Cleveland was like, all right, here's $40 million. Are you going to come back or not? He's like, yeah, I'm on my way back. I love Cleveland. It's the best. Weather's great. Love the beach, all the stuff, right? Like all the things. And you're like, okay, it's going to take some time to totally mend that relationship back. And then he's come out, man, and like for a guy who could, grudge is the wrong word, but just be like, just have a bad attitude because he's been through the worst of the worst. He's been to the playoffs with the Browns, and now he's back to the bottom. He is playing with his hair absolutely on fire. He's getting after the quarterback. He's making plays in the run game, which is kind of not rare in his game and his skill set, but you just don't see it often. But he's making his presence felt in the run game. And truly, Andrew, it's him being elite. And you're going to see him do some elite, crazy stuff on Sunday. But he is aided so much by the improved interior and opposing end rusher that the Browns have this year. This guy, Mason Graham, I was talking about rookies on the offensive side of the ball. It's 2 rookies on the defensive side of the ball that you have to have circled. 94, Mason Graham. We took him 5th overall, traded Travis Hunter for him. And the early returns, dude, are out of control. He's a problem in the middle of the defensive line. And then next to him is Malik Collins, who's a veteran guy. And then they'll rotate a handful of guys in after that. And then on the other side, there's 2 names, Isaiah McGuire and Alex Wright, who will rush the quarterback on the other side. And they've really allowed Myles to get solo matchups. Like if you have to block anybody one-on-one, like there's a handful of guys who could do it. It's Joe Thomas, probably Trent Williams, and maybe 2 other guys who could take Myles straight up. When you have to take him one-on-one, he's going to win. And the Browns have improved the rest of that defensive line so that he gets a lot more of those one-on-one matchups.
Absolutely. Mason Graham, man, from Michigan, he checks in at 6'4", 315 pounds, and he's got that quick athleticism, that twitchiness. The Packers right now, if they do have a weakness, I'd say it's that they're hurting along the offensive line. So it's going to be interesting to see with a couple injuries on the offensive line, specifically a guy like Zach Tom, who would be going up against Garrett a lot, what that's going to end up looking like. But I can guarantee you, quarterback's going to be an interesting conversation to see that dichotomy between Flacco and Love. But at the end of the day, this is going to come down to how is Parsons and how will Garrett impact this game, because they're going to be the guys who end up making those big plays.
There's no doubt. And I want to apologize to Packers fans who are watching this. When the Browns have the ball on offense, it's going to be hard to watch. Like, it's going to be very challenging to watch. You're going to sit there and be like, how in the hell do people from Ohio do this every week? And it's a fair question. It's a fair question because not much happens. But it'll be tough, especially with what the Packers bring to the table. Now, there's a guy left out on the defensive side of the ball. So when the Packers do have the ball, watch for 94. He's the rookie. He's Mason Graham, and then 49 right behind him, Carson Schlesinger. He was the Browns' 33rd overall pick, first pick of the 2nd round. This dude, he, in a very humble way, compared himself and models his game off of Luke Kuechly, is what he said in early in the season. And he plays just like him. He is a magnet to the football. He's very smart. He's so fast, and he comes to the ball with bad intentions. You'll see him flying around, but it's 49 at the 2nd level, and it's 94 up front. Those are a couple guys to have your eye on when the Packers have the football.
It's going to be interesting. By all accounts, this is a game the Packers should win.
Good roll.
Yeah, there's too much difference right now, but I would imagine in a couple of years, if these players for the Browns continue to develop and become who the Browns think they can be, maybe they could be one of those teams that's right behind the Packers in that developmental curve.
Andrew, it's funny because you know the answer to this, but you've never experienced the other side of it. When you have a quarterback, you're alive in everything. Okay.
Yeah.
You're alive. If you have a good player at quarterback, you can win football games. When you have a bad player at quarterback, it does not matter if you have a once in a lifetime generational talent on the defensive side of the football, maybe rushing the quarterback. It doesn't matter because it makes it damn near impossible. And the Browns have been on a 30-year search for that guy at quarterback. And once they find him, I'll jump back in the show and we'll talk about that. But They're still searching, and they're going to be searching for a while.
Well, both teams will be searching for a win, and for us.
Can I ask one thing? Wait. I had to ask one thing before we get out of here. What do you think of the all-white uniforms for the Packers? I meant to ask this earlier. Do we like them? Do we dislike them? What will we change?
It's a classic. The Packers are a classic team, right? So with those classic teams, you tend to like to stick to the basics, the home and the away. I think like the Bears, the Steelers, the Packers. With that said, I've always been a fan of alternative jerseys. The Chargers is obviously probably the most famous. That light blue, or what was it, periwinkle blue? There's a term for it, but
powder blue maybe, or they call it like bolt blue or something. But
ultimately, as long as they're winning, they could wear whatever they want, and I don't care.
It could be anything.
I think that's probably there'd be a problem if they wore the sickest uniforms but went out there and got trashed. So it's ultimately it comes down to the scoreboard for me.
There you go. I liked them. I would have gone with, instead of going all white, either if you go all white helmet, put the G in yellow, or just go with your yellow helmet and just keep it, because that would have been tough. But I get it. I like the mix up. I align with you. The Browns are similar. They have a early NFL look, a classic look to them. But I do I'm a fan of good alternate uniforms. They have to be good. Some are hits, some are misses, but I liked what the Packers had on Thursday.
As long as you're not pulling out those Steelers bumblebees, and I know that's a classic, but that's a tough jersey right there. So
tough look. That is a tough look.
Everything is kind of above water from that point on. So
one more thing.
Okay.
We need more than one show a week. 1 minute on Aaron Rodgers. Does he still have it or not?
He does. Aaron Rodgers absolutely still has it. Football's a team sport. It takes everybody, and he found that out in Green Bay for years. Being arguably the best quarterback in the league, and only coming away with one Super Bowl. Do I think he's the magician he once was? No, but can the guy still? Would I prefer Aaron Rodgers over Joe Flacco if I were a Browns fan? Absolutely, I think I would.
Yes, there's no doubt. Rodgers is my favorite quarterback. Growing up, studying the position, being a fan of the position, him throwing the football is like watching Picasso paint, right? Like, I think it's the most pure release. It's the best you've ever seen. And, being that I cover the Browns and have a very, rooted interest in the AFC North, I've watched every one of his snaps. And I'll tell you what, the legs might be old, the beard might be gray, but that arm's still humming, and he's still got it. He's absolutely still got it. So sucks for the Browns.
Yeah. He just has a way of making those throws, especially when he's moving out of the pocket, where he just hit. There's nobody else in the world who can do that. It's just
a flick of that wrist, man.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Well, I think we're going to have a lot to talk about here in the upcoming week, and in our next podcast, it's going to be interesting to see how both of us are feeling, because I imagine if we get the inverse of what we're expecting, that's going to be a very interesting.
I'll have all orange on.
Yeah.
Hey, and if it gets ugly, it might be a solo show next week. Just saying.
Yeah.
Saying.
We'll push through. So appreciate you, buddy. And, to everybody who's listening and watching, appreciate you guys giving a shot to us over at the Roundtable Sports Network. And I think we're building something pretty special, man.
Yeah, get to that link below. It's right underneath my pen right now. Get to that link below. You'll find all of Andrew's work there on the Packers site. Go to hit the select teams. You can see all my work and our team's work over on the Brown site. If you're into college football, I do a lot of work for Ohio State. So jump over to that Ohio State site as well and follow along.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon.